People who legally died for a few minutes and came back, what was it like? This needs to get in hot, really cool question. I died during birth for a few minutes. Don't remember it too obviously. I'm here for the replies. It was fucked up. I died in surgery for 2 minutes and the cunts brought me back. I remember getting in the ambulance and I remember getting out. Was completely unaware that I had arrested until I was told some days later. Kinda off topic, but how does that happen? It was dark and gradually I can hear voices of people surrounding me. Then I woke up. Not me, but my father told me he had died in surgery. No dreams, no afterlife, no nothing. Failed suicide attempt. When I was being resuscitated by Dad after he found me hanging, in my dream I woke up in the water. I was looking around and just acknowledged my surroundings. By the time my brain processed where I was, I realized I was drowning. I looked down, it was pitch black, looked up, and swam for my life. It felt like I was running out of oxygen. Just as I hit the top, I woke up and was being put into the ambulance, fell asleep again, then woke up later in ICU. Was 10+ years ago. Lol. Working in a hospital and taking care of people who have been legally dead and have come back either on their own accord or with CPR, I've heard these people say that they felt like they were falling. They also wake up really confused, not remembering the situation. To me it seems like what they experience is close to a dream, that you're falling and wake up with a jolt. It was world of grey and occasional bright color. I was sitting on table and listening to people around me. Their voices were muffled. Then it hit me. I could not move. With corner of my eye I saw black figure sitting no more than 2 meters from me. I felt fear and could not move. Then I woke up. Eyes full of blood. Sharp pain. Etc. When I was a kid I contracted dengue fever. Major killer of kids my age. So while I was hemorrhaging blood, the crackhead doctors told my parents I had to have an appendix removal. They put me under but realized something was wrong when I didn't wake up for 48 hours later. During that time I had a hell of a dream. Was walking on a beach and there was a dude cloaked in black sitting on a bench. Had a nice chat with him before walking up. I kinda wanna know about the people who died illegally and came back. Not sure if I died, but when I was living with a friend we got into a car accident, with 8 of us in there. I took the worst of it. I smashed into the window, still have scars from it. I did not have a belt on, was not required for a passenger to have a belt on at the time. I slumped over, I could not feel anything, could not say anything. I could still hear, everyone's calling my name, but that slowly faded away. I woke up being pushed into an ambulance. This was about 15 minutes later as they are sticking that long plastic tube to open for airway. Forgot the device's name. The good news was that I was alive, spent a little over a week in the hospital. I was internally bruised, took about 5 months for me to heal. I felt bad for my mother, she was unaware of anything because we didn't live together. She decided to drop by my friend's house and she was pissed that nobody notified her of the accident. This is a whole different story. It was like nothing. I remember pulling out onto the road that I got hit on, then waking up in ICU a few days later. Clinically dead for 1.5 minutes. A friend of mine had overdose, caused a stroke and legally died for a little under 3 minutes in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. He remembers the stroke, and being wheeled to the ambulance on a stretcher. Then he felt like he was floating under ice-cold water, and it was dark, but he wasn't really thinking or feeling anything emotionally, just existing and knowing it was very, very cold and he couldn't see. Then he woke up, and the EMTs were kinda freaked out because his heart had stopped long enough that they figured he was done. At some point in the following days he became convinced that what he experienced was hell minus the knowledge of suffering, like a toned-down preview, and thought it was a warning for him to change his life. Sadly he didn't stay clean for long. This asks a good question: if you're serving a life sentence and then you die, are pronounced legally dead, then come back, should you be let go? My father actually had a heart attack and by some miracle he was lucky to get to the hospital in time before it was too late, but in the ambulance he flatlined and they had to revive him I think twice. which obviously worked, but it took I think about 4 or 5 minutes, which made everyone worried because his heart wasn't beating, which means he's not getting blood to his brain that will cause brain damage. Long story short, no brain issues and he's completely healthy. I asked about his experience and if he saw some light or anything, but he doesn't remember anything. He almost never remembers his dreams, so even if he did see something I don't think he'd remember through all of that lol. There's an interesting book called Life After Life by a Dr. Moody who became interested in this experience when one of his patients went through it. He did a study, interviewing hundreds of people who had this happen to them. He said that there were a variety of experiences, some not remembering anything, but he listed 7 common ones. Not everyone had all 7, but everyone has some of the 7. Buzzing noise, feeling like they were out of the body, going through a tunnel, meeting former family or friends, meeting a being of light, coming to a boundary where they knew that if they crossed it, they couldn't return. I can't remember the last one. Howdy, I died on May 28, 2020 during an emergency procedure on my esophagus. I basically drowned in my own spit and blood while under. I did have something that could have just been my brain doing weird things. I immediately saw myself from the vantage of the room. Everyone but one stepped away and he calmly began performing CPR. I remember knowing that I had the choice to move on or go back, and behind me was a sixth sense of joy, but that could have been my brain. The doctor, who I have not met, walked in and I remember he had a 6-square watch on his wrist, saw what was going on and left. I guess the head nurse guy is known to be good at what he's doing. Oh, and BTW, they didn't use those pedals where they say clear. So I'm wondering if that's just a movie thing. The other nurses were talking and one said he had gout, which is why he had the foot brace thing on, while I saw the flat line from this vantage, it being positioned behind real me. Some other wonky stuff happened. I do remember seeing how frail I was and sort of knowing everyone in the room being good people. Then I was rushing to me, and me threw up a foamy red vomit, and then bam, I was awake with a massive headache and tubes in my throat. They put me under again after a few moments. Later, whenever I woke up in my hospital room, I asked one of the attending nurses to ask the doctor what kind of watch he wore, the square one. She came back and said it was diesel. Then we both realized, I have never seen the doctor. Edit, I coded /flatlined, I'm not sure if this meets the definition OP is looking for. Died on New Year's Day this year from a heroin overdose. Was pleasant, tossed on some tunes, went over to the couch to sit down as the shit was coming on, then the next thing I knew I was sitting in the back of an ambulance being told I had just died from an overdose. Really, it was just like sleeping. 1 minute I was there, faded out, then faded back in, don't recall anything in between, but I imagine it must have been horrible for my mom to find me that way. So yeah, kids, don't fuck with heroin or opiates in general. Thankfully I'm not addicted to the stuff, just occasionally dabbled for many years, but after that shit I'm done for good. For once in my life, I wasn't paying taxes. I have a friend who has died 3 times and been brought back. He says there is just nothing until you wake up in pain and /a lot of tubes running into you. Not me, but had a friend in high school who died and came back. He swears he went to hell. He was from a very religious family, so it might be top of mind. TW, abuse/violence. 28 years ago I was beaten to death by an ex. He had me partially undressed and flat on my back on the sidewalk in front of my apartment. He kept punching me in the face and biting me while yelling at me to shut up. I remember trying to scream for help, but I was swallowing too much of my own blood. I don't remember the police or EMTs showing up. When I was put into the ambulance I wasn't breathing and my heart had stopped. I know the ambulance was yellow because I was looking down at it as if I was sitting in a tree. I wasn't afraid, just curious. I knew I had to get back though because of my young son. The pull to get back to him was very strong. I don't remember anything else. I woke up in the emergency room and the nurses were trying to remove my bra, underwires, and they had the defib, electric paddle thingies, at the ready. Total darkness. Like going to sleep with no dreams. Until you are brought back, then searing pain kicks in. I guess it's PC, the body goes out of shock, and you feel everything. That's what it felt like to me.
With